6:45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Malarachi and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. IMF Executive Board to take up Sri Lanka's first review on 12th of December. The President holds discussion with the Brazilian and French leaders on the sidelines of the COP28 summit. Renovation of dilapidated rural roads across the country will commence next week. 45,000 students will be enrolled in state universities for the academic year 2023-24. A project to open tax files for all MPs of the ruling party before the end of this year. In news overseas, Israel carries out intense airstrikes in southern Gaza. And in sports news, the 71st National Badminton Championship begins tomorrow. Those are the headlines, and now let's move to the details of the local news. The Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund is set to take up for consideration the first review of the 48-month Extended Fund Facility arrangement for Sri Lanka on the 12th of December. This was mentioned in the Global Leaders Executive Board's calendar, which mentioned that the first review of Sri Lanka's extended arrangement under the Extended Fund Facility, request for waiver of non-observance of performance criterion, request for modification of performance criteria, finance assurances review, and rephasing of access are scheduled to go in for the consideration on that day. President Ranil Wickremesinghe engaged in a significant meeting with his Brazilian counterpart Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on the sidelines of the United Nations COP28 Climate Change Conference in Dubai yesterday. The discussion highlighted the shared challenges posed by the climate change crisis in both countries. President Wickremesinghe extended an invitation to the Brazilian president to join the Tropical Belt Initiative, emphasizing the importance of joint efforts through the Tropical Belt Initiative to address and mitigate these concerns impacting both Sri Lanka and Brazil. The Sri Lankan leader also invited President Lula da Silva to visit Sri Lanka. The president also met his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron and held bilateral talks. They focused their attention to further enhance the relationship between the two countries. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that the renovation of the dilapidated rural roads across the country is planned to commence next week. Addressing a news conference recently, he said this ambitious project aimed at reviving essential transportation network has received substantial support from the Asian Development Bank, which has agreed to provide a loan amounting to nearly 20 billion rupees. He also emphasized the pivotal role the loan will play in rejuvenating the country's road infrastructure. Minister Gunawardena highlighted that the timely disbursement of the funds would enable the commencement of the road reconstruction work within next week. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. The University Grants Commission Chairman, Professor Sampath Amaratunga, says the government plans to enroll a total of 45,000 students in the state universities for the academic year 2023-24. Accordingly, applications for the university admission will be accepted from the next month. Professor Amaratunga said handbooks containing the applications will be available at authorized bookshops for purchase. Based on the results of the examination, a total of 106,000 students have been qualified to enter the universities in Sri Lanka. The President's Office at Parliament has initiated a project to open tax files for all MPs of the ruling party before the year's end. About 30 MPs who had not previously established their tax files have now done so under the program, sources from the President's Office said. The project involves summoning all ruling party members to the President's Office of the Parliament and officials from the Inland Revenue Department, advising MPs on how to prepare tax files and address deficiencies in the files of those who have already maintained them. With a deadline set for the completion before the 30th of December, MPs maintaining tax files have already presented and resolved their issues. The government hopes that all ruling party members will provide accurate asset and liability statements and maintain comprehensive tax files. President Ranil Wickremesinghe's envisions in this initiative as a means to disclose the genuine income of all MPs, aiming for them to be exemplary citizens in paying the income tax. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. IMF Executive Board to take up Sri Lanka's first review on the 12th of December. The President holds discussions with Brazilian and French leaders on the sidelines of the COP28 summit. Renovation of dilapidated rural roads across the country will commence next week. 45,000 students will be enrolled in state universities for the academic year 2023-24. A project to open tax files for all MPs of the ruling party before the year ends. And that was the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The main news story for this morning, President Ranil Wickremesinghe, along with the Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, has spearheaded discussions for 6 renewable energy projects next year. The projects will generate over 1,500 megawatts and transform Sri Lanka's energy landscape. The inaugural project is a 700 megawatts of solar power initiative harnessing sustainable energy sources. The government sources said that all 6 projects are slated for completion within the next 12 to 24 months. The Ministry of Power and Energy anticipates a marked reduction in Sri Lanka's electricity tariffs following the successful completion of these energy projects. This is in line with the country's broader vision for a sustainable and eco-friendly energy future. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In Washington this morning, with the dengue cases mounting, the epidemiology unit has identified 54 high-risk MOH areas where dengue breeding places have been found in abundance. The majority of these areas represent the Western Province, where 36,076 cases have been reported, the highest in terms of the provinces. As of 1st December 2023, a total of 76,846 cases have been reported so far, and the highest number of cases being recorded from the Colombo district as 16,257. Moreover, the tally of dengue cases registered in November stood at 7,995, recording the highest number of cases in 4 months. That came to you in Washlight, and now let's move on to the headlines of the world news. Israel carries out intense air strikes in southern Gaza. 46 men charged after officers hurt in Villa Park clashes. Glasgow Airport flights resume following snow cancellations. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the world news. Israel has carried out intense airstrikes on Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, with residents describing it as the heaviest bombing of the war. People in the eastern areas of the city have been told by the Israeli military to evacuate further to the south. Israel believes some Hamas leaders are in the city, where many civilians are sheltering after fleeing the north. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says at least 193 people have been killed in the latest wave of Israeli attacks. 46 men have been charged after violence broke out before an Aston Villa game against Legia Warsaw. 5 police officers were injured in the clashes with away fans nearing Villa Park in Birmingham on Thursday night. Of the 46 men charged, 43 have been charged with public order offence, West Midlands Police said. A total of 45 of those who have been charged were expected to appear before a special court set up in Birmingham's magistrates. Flights at one of the UK's busiest airports have resumed after dozens of planes were grounded due to heavy snowfall. Despite teams working through the night, Glasgow Airport confirmed flights have been cancelled on Saturday morning due to heavy snow. Rail services have also been affected by the winter weather, and 11 Scottish football matches were called off. The Met Department officer later issued a new yellow weather warning for ice. That was the world news. Let's move on to development news. A new skills test in the field of construction was introduced in Sri Lanka yesterday for working in Japan as specified skilled workers. Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment Manusha Nanayakara announcing the initiative said talented Sri Lankans will now have the opportunity to work in Japan and master the skills in the construction sector that will contribute not only to Japan's construction sector but also to the future development of Sri Lanka. From Development News, it's going to be sports news. The 71st National Badminton Championships begins tomorrow. Over 1,000 players will vie for this tournament. Organised by Sri Lanka Badminton, the championship promises to be a thrilling showcase of talent according to officials. The tournament features a compelling schedule of events at the Sri Lanka Badminton Indoor Courts, Mercantile Badminton Association Indoor Courts and DEC Senanayake College Indoor Courts. Sri Lanka Badminton said that there has been unprecedented enthusiasm among players as the sport's governing body had received an impressive number of entries. The championships will encompass a diverse range of events spanning from under 11 to 19 in the junior category and over 30 to over 70 in the senior category. And still on sports, left-arm spinner Taijul Isam's 10-wicket match haul took Bangladesh to their first home test victory over New Zealand in Sylhet. Taijul claimed 6 for 75 in the second innings as New Zealand were dismissed for 181 and the hosts won by 150 runs. It was their only second test win against New Zealand. The second match of the two-test series starts in Mirpur on Wednesday, the 6th of this month. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Go ekak tiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න. The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Love Gas PLC has also decided not to revise its prices in the month of December, mirroring Electrogas Lanka's move. As such, both companies have decided against the price revision in December in view of the upcoming festive season. There was no revision in the prices of domestic LP gas cylinders of Love's Gas in the month of November either. That is the business news. Economic news follows.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak tiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න. The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And now in economic news.
Sri Lanka Tourism Development Board has revealed that it is likely for Sri Lanka to receive over 1 million tourists by the end of this year. Accordingly, it is expected for a total of 1.5 million tourists to have visited the island by the end of this year. Speaking in this regard, Tourism Development Board Chairman Priyantha Fernando revealed that a total of 1.2 million tourists had visited Sri Lanka by the end of November. That is the economic news, and let's move on to the weather report before we conclude the bulletin. A deep depression over the southwest Bay of Bengal, located near the latitude 11.2 degrees north and longitude 82.7 degrees east, last night and about 330 kilometers northeast of Jaffna. It will develop into a cyclonic storm during the next 12 hours. The system is moving away from the island near the northern coast of Sri Lanka towards North Tamil Nadu coast of India by the 4th of December. Thereafter, it would move northwards as a cyclonic storm and across the South Andhra Pradesh coast on the 5th of December. Cloudy skies can be expected over the northern, north-central and eastern provinces. Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the northern and north-central provinces and in the Trincomalee and Batticaloa districts. Fairly heavy showers above 75 mm are likely at some places. Several spells of showers will occur in the Sabaragamuwa province and in the Kandy and Nuwara Eliya districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Hambantota districts after 1 p.m. And it's the headlines before we wrap up the bulletin. IMF Executive Board to take up Sri Lanka's first review on the 12th of December. The President holds discussions with the Brazilian and French leaders on the sidelines of the COP28 summit. Renovation of dilapidated rural roads across the country will commence next week. 45,000 students will be enrolled in the state universities for the academic year 2023-24. A project to open tax files for all MPs of the ruling party before the year ends. And in news overseas, Israel carries out intense airstrikes in southern Gaza. And on sports news, the 71st National Badminton Championships begins tomorrow. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And now it's back to your regular Sunday morning host, Abhishek Kumarge, on the other side of the glass panel to entertain you.